the very nice introduction as usual. Like Sherry said, we're going to be kind of giving you an introduction to Sage Intelligence today and kind of an overview and touching on a few things. It's a very deep product, and we could probably spend easily an hour on any one of a number of things that we will touch upon today. So it's a very deep product with a lot of functionality. This is kind of just a little bit to kind of give you an orientation, whet your appetite a little bit. Okay, so what is it? So Sage Intelligence is it's a component they've got going in with Sage 100 right now. It's an Excel-based reporting tool for Sage 100. So most of us accounting types and really anyone who works in modern business these days, we all use Excel. So we're all very comfortable with it. And so that's kind of the genesis of it. It originally kind of came in when Microsoft retired a product called FRX, which was used to write custom financial reports for Sage 100. And this has been the official replacement for that for several years now. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the components of Sage Intelligence first. So you should see, if you have any kind of a recent version of Sage, you should see a menu under your modules here called Sage Intelligence Reporting. There is a couple folders underneath of that. The first one we'll look at is the setup folder. Just a few basic things in here you don't normally need to deal too much with is there's a license manager. So when you buy certain components of Sage Intelligence, that add additional functionality, this is where we license those pieces, so you don't need to spend much time in there. There is a security manager here which can control access to specific reports in Sage Intelligence. You can also control access to Sage Intelligence with the traditional role-based security model that the system has. We're not going to be spending in time today talking about security or licensing. There is a connector component here, so I'll just open this up for a moment and briefly talk about this. The way Sage Intelligence works is it uses connections to your Sage 100 database. And if we open up the connector here, this is where all those connections reside. And as you can see here, there is a lot of different types of connections. And a lot of these kind of come pre-configured, but you can see there's lots of different types of connections. Here's the one that I'm going to be using today. And we're going to be into this auto connect one. So the idea here is that you have a connection. It contains the fields and various things that you might need to use. We'll touch upon that a little bit later. So you can build your own connections, or you can use existing connections depending on the components that you have. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. Where we're going to spend most of our time today is under this thing called the Report Manager, but there's also a Report Viewer. I'll just pop that open real quick so you can get a quick look at that. So the report viewer is just a place for people who can view reports that don't have authorization to create them or modify them and so on. And so you can get a type of a license for some people that just allows them to view the reports. Now there's also report distribution features in here, which we'll be seeing in today's demo. So with those particular distribution features, you may not need any viewers. You may just be distributing reports to people who need to see them. All right, that's kind of that. Now we're going to go into the Report Manager, and this is the place where you'll do most of your work if you're a heavy lifter in Sage Intelligence. So this is a place where you can run the stock reports that come with Sage. If you buy the Designer, it's also a place where you can create your own reports. And then if you have the connector license, of course, you can create your own connections to write even more advanced reports with your own connections that you create. Okay, so little orientation here. On how this thing is organized. So basically you have a left and a right pane. You've got like a properties pane on the right, some folders down the left. These are one-level folders. So the folders that are not all capital letters, these are the ones that come with the system just literally out of the can. So if I open up an inventory folder, these are one-level folders, and so the various reports are tucked underneath of these various folders. So if I expand this a few, you can see there's some there. Now, you might have noticed as I expanded a few of these folders that some of these have a little bluish icon, and some of them have a little kind of a greenish icon. So really, you know, what most people want to know is kind of what are those. So these ones with the blue icons, these are called standard reports, and they're made out of a single container from the connector. The green ones are a little bit more complicated reports, and they're made up of 2 or more standard reports, and that might be done for creating a single report that could possibly pull data from completely different data sources. So that might be why you'd have a green or a union report compared to a single blue colored icon or a standard report. There's even an additional kind of report here called a cube report, but I don't know much about it. I haven't seen it used in practice yet, so there might even be some other options in there. Okay, a key concept with Sage Intelligence is the ability to copy, move, and run reports. So if we just highlight, one of these reports, we can see that it's locked. It's telling us, hey, this is locked. So for our locked report, you can go ahead and run it in its stock form, no problem there. But if you want to modify an existing report to sort of, fine-tune it to your own use, then you need to copy it somewhere so that you can manipulate it. Okay, so that's why these are locked. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with first just by showing you how to create your own folders and how to move a report to those folders, and then how to run a report and modify one. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over this home folder here, and we're going to click the add folder, and we're going to make a folder for some reports. So you might have these reports by your users' names. These might be month-end financials, and you might group them by topic. I'm going to call mine Bob's Reports. All right, so there's Bob's Reports. And if I want to move one of these existing reports that I have to modify it because it's locked, I'm just going to open that up. I'm going to do the right click and copy, and you can also use the icons across the top to do any of this stuff. And I'm going to come into Bob's Reports, and then I'll use this paste icon at the top, or I could do a right click paste. So I'm going to paste this in here, and we'll put that in the Bob's Reports. Now if we open that up and we highlight that, notice it's no longer hidden here. It's telling us that we can see the properties. We can go into the columns to see the columns that are defined. We can see the filters and so on. So that's kind of step one on how to copy it. So, and so we could manipulate anything on any of these tabs. That's one sort of form of manipulating a report. What we're going to do is we're going to actually manipulate the report in Excel itself. We're going to leave this alone for now. We'll actually build a report all the way from scratch later that'll go through some of that. So we're going to run this report out. This is demonstration data, of course, and this demonstration data happens to be dated 2020. So we're going to be using the 2020 date today. And it's specifically May of 2020. So bear with me while I put some dates in here that should capture data. We'll hit this OK button, and we'll let this thing run. Down at the bottom, there's a little status kind of area going on. You can kind of see it's running. It's giving us a runtime, and you can kind of see the reports moving. And here it is. It's now come into Excel. I'm going to go ahead and blow this up a little bit just to hopefully make it a little more viewable for you guys over there. And so what we're going to do is just talk about this for a bit. So you've got tabs. So if I click in here, you see there's lots of links to getting help. For example, if I click the Getting Started, this will open up a browser eventually. And here we can see that right at our fingertips, it seems like it's loading a little slow today, we have a lot of access to a lot of information, and these actually will be videos that we can look and download and watch for how to do different things. So lots of help right at your fingertips for that. I'm not going to go into all these, I'll just mention it. So you can click on a tab like this to get to an actual report, or there's tabs in Excel. They do the same thing. So if I click here, I'm in the actual report, and that's a little small, so I'll zoom this up so we can see it. And we're just going to play around with this report and show a few features. All right, so you can see that we've got some data filters here. So if you want to filter anything out, these are real common. These are just strict data filters. So item type, if I tell it I only want to see the regular items, those are the ones that actually live in your inventory module as opposed to the common information module. I can quickly see that. That's a feature you'll see in a lot of reports right there, pretty straightforward. You'll also see summary and or detail kind of buttons. So next to the company names here, I have a minus sign. I can shrink that to get the totals, or I can expand it to see the detail that makes up those totals. So another common kind of a feature there. All right, so now we're going to, now we're just going to play around with this report a little bit. So if I'm in this report and I go to the Analyze Pivot Table Tools and I click the field list, here is basically, my pivot table field, so I can manipulate this report if I want to. So if I wanted rows with, different information, maybe I want the item code as well as the item number, I could throw the item code down here in my rows and see that the item codes are coming in, just like that. So that's sort of one way I can manipulate a report. I'm going to do a couple other things here, just more of a cosmetic nature. I'm going to insert a couple rows here. Make this one taller. I'm going to insert my company logo for starters. So if I have a company logo, and I'm going to just make some other minor changes here to give this color scheme that I think might match my company's colors. So pretty cosmetic stuff we're doing here at this level. Okay, there it is. So we've manipulated the report a little bit. We could have added fields, changed whatever else we wanted. And now we're going to expose you to another concept for Sage Intelligence, which is how do you save reports in Sage Intelligence? So once you've made any changes that you wanted to a report, whether it's a stock one that you started with or it's a one from scratch, what you do is you can minimize that. You come back to your Sage Intelligence, you highlight the report that you're working on, and you click the Save Excel Template. Then you pick the, if you have more than one open, you highlight the applicable one, you hit the OK button, and you just say yes to all of these little prompts that will pop up, and it should tell us that it's successful when it's done. So there it is. We've successfully linked the report. Now, next time if we come into here, we want to run this, all we have to do is hit this Run button, and we'll put that current data in here again, that range, and we'll give this a quick run out and see that it hopefully kept our changes. And sure enough, there it is. It kept all our formatting and anything else that we did to it. So that shows you how to save a report in Sage Intelligence. All right, we're going to poke around and look at a few different reports now. We're just going to run a stock report without copying or modifying it to show you a little bit of drill down functionality. So let's see here. Financials, financial trend analysis. I'm going to run this one. This is just a stock report right out of the gate that you can get. Comes with the system. And we'll tell it 2020 and let this thing go. Okay, there we are again. I'll zoom this up a little bit for your viewing here. So the way this one works, this is a drill down type of report. It's got a little trend in it. So what we'll do is we'll zoom up here to an account that we think has some data in it. And there we have a little chart down below. So your first exposure to a drill down in Sage Intelligence is you can make drill downs. In this case, if I highlight, whatever period I'm interested in, and I click the drill down there, Sage claims that anything in Sage Intelligence that's returned with a formula has a drill down. In some cases, there's more than one drill down. So I've drilled down, and I can see that, there's one entry in here for period 1 that is this $236,000 amount. I can drop that into Excel also by clicking that button right there, Data to Excel, if I want to work with that. That's kind of boring because it's one entry, so not much interest there. So you can also drill down on the prior periods and things like that. So it's kind of dynamic in the sense that it'll give you a drill down for the cell that you're on. Another thing you can do, because you're in Excel here, is you can very easily chart and graph information. So this one came with a graph pre-built. You can also manipulate these. So if I wanted to do something like change the style of this report, I can easily do that. I can add the labels. I can manipulate how this chart looks. So another thing you can do to kind of make things look the way you want them to. That's all I'm going to show you for that one. All right, next one. I'm going to show you a kind of a finished dashboard report. This one actually comes with the system, and then we're going to build a dashboard later as part of our demo, or at least a little mini one. So we're going to go ahead and run this dashboard analysis out and show you a couple more types of drill downs. This one has a few more parameters in it. And let's see. It says current period end date, so 31st. Okay. And it wants a budget. Pick a budget, any budget. Okay, and there's going to be your first look at a dashboard report. I like to show this one because it kind of paints the picture a little bit of how nice of a job you can potentially do with a dashboard. And I've seen some pretty extreme examples, but this is kind of one free out of the can. All right, here it comes. All right, some of the reports will actually have instructions in here. This one has instructions talking about how the drill downs might work. We're going to actually just go over to the actual dashboard here. So here's a dashboard. They've got some profit and loss key indicators up here. Looks like we need to widen this cell up. And they've got some expenses going in here with graphs to match, so visual presentation of the data. And then, it's basically a top 5, type report where it's reporting on the top 5 KPI type indicators. If we were to go down to, say, a customer and highlight Shepherd Motorworks, and we right-clicked and we said we wanted to see, what made up their numbers, I could do a drill down on that customer, and I need to make sure I pick the by customer because I'm doing it by customer, and it's telling me who I've got highlighted in the report. And I'm going to hit the execute here, and we're going to see what it is Shepherd Motorworks purchased that added up to that $283,500. And there it is. Of course, we can expand these columns. There's the Shepherd Motorworks. It actually looks like that they had one invoice for $283,000 and $283,500. So it's a big purchase, not a lot of detail, probably because it's demo data. And we also have drill downs for items in here. So down below that, we have the top 5 items. Here is the D1000 desk. And notice it happens to have the same sales figure as Shepherd Motorworks. So what do you want to bet that this is the item that Shepherd Motorworks purchased? We should see that customer referred to in the item drill down. So we're going to execute that and see if that looks right. And there it is. Sure enough, it told us that Shepherd Motorworks purchased that quantity of 350 of those that added up to that $283,500. So showing you the drill downs can kind of go be sliced and diced different ways. And again, we've already showed you that you can change the chart information here. So if you want to change the look and feel of your charts, you can certainly do that at your discretion. All right, that's it for your dashboard report. All right, now we're going to get into a little bit more of creating your own reports and some of the different reports that you can kind of do. So for that, we're going to go to this financials, and they have this finance report designer. So this is the thing that allows you to kind of make your own financial reports. And we're going to do is we're going to just copy that because it's locked, because we're going to actually do some of our own reports. And we're going to just paste that into Bob's. And we've got it in there now. And my mouse is jumping all around on me here a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to run this out, and we'll talk about the different types of financial reports that you can kind of do. with this tool. It's almost there. Okay, here's our first look at the report designer. And there it is, it's done. Okay, so just like before, very similar look that we've already seen. There are some instructions over here. This basically set of instructions describes to you that there are two different ways that you might be able to create reports. And we're going to cover both of them. All right, so the left side, or the green kind of header on it, talks about, you know, standard report layouts that you can then run or modify. And then the right side talks about how you can do your own custom reports. So what I'm going to do is cover the green side first. So over here, we have this little task pane that pops out. And it's got layouts, it's got lists and formulas and trees, and we're going to cover all this stuff. So here's the layouts. These are pre-built financial reports that you can run at your discretion. All I've got to do is just highlight one I want and basically drag it over or double click on it, and it will go ahead and create the crystal report for me. Again, this came right with the system. I didn't invent this one. It's out of the can, so you do get a lot of out of the can stuff. And we'll let this thing finish. There it is. Now this is demo data for 2020, so that's why it's blank. There is no data in 2018. So once I put the correct year in here, I can kind of see the report works. Let's talk about some of the features that you get with some of these kind of reports. And you can also do these kind of features in your own reports. So here what we've got is the summary tab. So up here in the upper left, we have a summary group and a detail group. So we're on group 1 right now. If I click on the 2, I see the expanded detail and all the numbers. So you can also use these plus and minus buttons to expand and contract that data yourself. But if you just want to see fully contracted and summarized versus full detail, you can just use those two groups. Let's see here. Something else we can do here. So here's the actual period 01. If we do a right click and drill down here, it'll bring that data into Excel also. Okay, so we can do drill downs on this data. So we're coming back here. Okay, and you can also manipulate the actual layout itself. So if we wanted to edit this, we can do the quick edit. We can go to the right report, and it'll open the layout generator. This is where this report was actually built, and this is the interface that it uses. Now, I don't personally care for this interface. To me, it's very clunky and busy and not very intuitive. And most people tend to agree with me. I haven't had anybody yet that says they preferred to do reports this manner. But it is an option. Some of you might prefer it. And it's its own little world of functionality itself. You can see there are kind of layouts with these boxes that you drag around in the rows and so on. So we are going to do a couple more things to this report here. And that is, we're going to use this to introduce the concept of reporting trees. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the trees, and we're going to just talk about trees. So I'm going to go into, you see I actually have 3 trees made. I've got one that goes by departments, one that goes by cities, and one that goes by locations. We're going to play with this one for by locations. So I'm just going to come back here, and I'm going to click this Manage button, and I'm going to manage my tree to basically talk about how the trees work. So I'm going to go edit the ABC locations. So out of the can, this is what the system does out of the can. So in this particular install, the corporate accounts are any accounts ending in 04. So these question marks are what's called wildcards, and we're using that to say anything that ends in an 04 represents the corporate location. The no location is represented by any account ending in 00. So the location is my third segment, Central 03, East 01, etc. So if I highlight, in this case, the corporate, based on the existing tree, I'm going to see what accounts it's going to pull down below. Notice they all ended in 04. If I pick the 03 at the existing tree, they all ended in 03. In other words, there is no branches really. These are just straightforward. The idea with these reporting trees is that you can drag around nilly-willy however you want to model your financial relationships any way you want. So if I want to go for a real decentralized, I can, pull this stuff and make each one of these report to the other one. And notice now if I'm in corporate, now corporate's got the 04s, the 00s, the 01s, the 02s, so I can drag these around in any configuration I want to get the reporting tree the way I want it. So we're going to do something a little, probably not realistic, but good for demonstration purposes. We're going to make the East and the West report to corporate. So I'm just going to drag East under corporate and West under corporate. And I'm going to make the Central be on its own and no location be on its own. So with this relationship, East and West roll up to corporate, and then I have Central and no location. So corporate should have the 04s plus the 01s plus the 02s in it. And so that's what we've got. All right, so that's our tree. We're just going to say apply and OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my trees, and I'm going to open this up. And this is showing me the current model that I have set up in my tree that we just did. So if I want to do the corporate tree, I can drag that over here like this. And it's hard to see, but it just updated the data all the way through the spreadsheet. So now what I'm seeing is I'm seeing numbers for the corporate, the 04. I'm seeing numbers for the East, like this one ending in 01, and I'm also seeing it for the West, but I'm not seeing it for no location or Central. So these ones are now blank that don't have those locations. To make this a little more obvious, I'll give you another one here. We're going to I'll just move or copy that, and we'll just move it to the end. So this is the same report. I'm just going to drag over my my Central maybe because it's on its own, and we'll just see how that changes the report. So there you go. It doesn't have as many of the roll-up fields. Notice how many of those fields have blanked out. So if I wanted to keep that report like that, it might be a good idea to take out some of these other rows that maybe don't apply, but you get the idea of what the reporting tree does now. All right, so that's a bit on the layout piece. We're going to do the other side of it now, and this is what most people prefer in Sage Intelligence. So we'll come over here. We just have a blank Excel worksheet. That's all we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with some of the functionality here. So we're going to come over here to our lists. And we're going to start by just dragging a list of accounts out. So you see I have different types of lists that I can do, and I can do reports on any of these. In this case, I'm just going to drag the accounts list over, and we'll just throw it over here. And I'll zoom this up a bit. And in this example, what I'm going to do is I'll open these up so you can kind of see what they are. Really basic stuff out of your chart of accounts. I'm going to just get rid of the stuff I don't want to start with. So I'm going to do an income statement example. So I'm going to come through here and blow away all of the balance sheet accounts. Okay, there they are. And in this case, in this example, I'm not going to use these other columns. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those also. All right, there we are. Now I'm going to put my first formula in. And we're just going to use the actual. So you see here we have all number of different formulas. I'm just going to take the actual and drag it right over here, and I'm going to put the title on the top here. And then we're going to talk about how the formulas work. So I'm going to go into the formula editor, and we'll talk a little bit about formulas. So there is an auto-connect feature. And so if we are doing the reporting in the company that we're actually logged into, Sage Intelligence is smart enough to know that. It's automatically going to pick up the company code. In this case, I'm A01. okay? It also knows that my current GL year is 2020. So unless I want to do something other than those two, I can just accept that. And you can manually control those, but those are fine for what we're going to do. And we're going to see that there's a lot of different ways to pull data in with formulas. And so we're going to just show you kind of one that you probably won't use a whole lot of, but we'll start with that. So one way I can pull data in here is I can just code, if you will, the accounts or account numbers, ranges, which accounts it is, etc. I can just code that in there like that, and I can hit the OK button, and I've got a number in here. Now, this is a revenue account, so we'll want to format that for proper accounting purposes, and we'll want to put a negative sign in front of that to present that number as positive, which is the traditional accounting approach for showing positive revenue, even though it's a credit. And so that's all fine and dandy. The problem with this formula now is, if I copy this formula down, it's obviously got the same formula, so it's giving me the same value. So then I'd have to go code every one of these. Not a great strategy. So what we're going to do is one of the concepts that's really popular in Sage Intelligence, as with a lot of report writers, is the use of cell referencing. So if I tell it that it's going to use B4, it'll read whatever's in B4, and sure enough, it's reading it. I can hit OK to that. And now if I fill this down, it's a little bit smarter report now, because now it's smart enough to look at the row to determine, what it's supposed to get. So that's a lot better formula. So that's a good concept. When you build reports in Sage Intelligence, you want to take advantage of cell referencing wherever possible. Okay, taking that up one more notch, we're just going to come over here. We're going to do another formula just to show you a different one, and we're going to take it up a notch in the cell referencing. So we'll do we'll make this actual year to date. There's my actual year to date formula. And we'll label that. And what we're going to do here, I'll insert a couple columns. I'm going to call this year and period. Let's just justify those. And I'll make it 2020, period 5. Now what I can do, if I come into here, I'll tell it you're still going to use cell referencing for the GL link. But for the year, I'm going to have you use my cell where I keep the information. So we're going to anchor that with a $sign. That's absolute cell referencing. Most of you probably know that. And then the period is in D2. Okay, there it is. So we'll say OK, and we'll go ahead and fix our formatting on this thing. And I can, of course, copy these down because we use cell referencing. The difference between this column and this column is this one is dynamic and uses these values up here. So if I change this to 2019, I see that the numbers change accordingly. So that's the idea with cell referencing. That's the proper, kind of a better way of taking it up a notch. Okay, let's see here. We're going to do a main accounts example to show a few more things. So back over here to my list. I have the main accounts here, so I'm going to drag that list out here. And I'm going to get rid of all the balance sheet accounts because we're doing an income statement example. So give me a second while I move these guys all up. Okay, there we are. And we don't really need the other columns, so similar to the other one, we're going to just blow those away. Okay, what are we going to do here? So we're going to drag the actual over here. We'll do actual. Let's make it actual year to date. Why not? And we're going to finish our formula. Okay, there we are. All right, let's get our formatting here. Okay, so there's our number. So the reason I like to show you that is this just kind of gives you the idea of different ways you might want to work with the product here. So that's the actual year to date, and that was for only main account 400. So if I highlight all these accounts for 400, I can see down here in the lower right area that the sum of those numbers equals the 3.4 million. That is the same number I have here. So one way I could have gotten this number is to just have one formula, or I could have pulled the detail and had that. Now that this is here, let's see if we can get the drill down to work on this. So there's my drill down, shows me all the data that made up that one number. So I don't necessarily have to pull the detail. I can do drill downs on the data to get the detail depending on how I want to design the report. Now, this looks like one of the bigger numbers in here. Sometimes the data will have multiple drill downs. So we're going to see if this one does. So sometimes you can drill down to the detail, and then this one's drilling down to the transaction level. So multiple drill downs. So you can really get into the detail here, as you can see. All right. We're not done. Let's see here. We're going to come back to the sheet 4 here. And we're going to do one more example in here, I think, with the wildcard. So let's see here. What do we want to do? We want to do a year-to-date actual with a wildcard. So we'll call this one wildcard. Talk a little bit about that. So I mentioned the wildcard in the reporting trees. So we're going to do it a little bit here. We're going to come into this formula and finish it up. And the GL link here, we're going to give this, we're going to hand feed this 400. We're going to say the middle segment can be anything, but it has to end in an 01 for what we want this value to return. And we've got a number. We need to format it. And then we're going to take a look and see how that works. So we said over here, any account starting with 400 ends in 01. The middle segment can be anything. So really what this is, it's the 400-01. It would be this one, and it looks like probably this one. So let's see here. Let's actually add up those numbers. Actually, we need that guy. And that guy right there. Okay, so there we are. Those are the 3 accounts that I highlighted that meet that criteria. And sure enough, they add up to the 2.1 million that our formula with the wild cards pulled in. So that's kind of an example how that might work for you. Okay, we're going to do another example. This time, we're going to actually build a financial report that doesn't use any GL accounts at all, just to show you that you don't have to use GL accounts to build a financial report. So this one's kind of a fun one to do. So what I'm going to do here, if I come over here to my lists, one of the things I have, other than account lists, I also have, let's see here, we have account categories. So if I drag the account categories out here, I see that, it's pretty much your account categories. It's pretty straightforward. It's self-explanatory. So I'm going to make a balance sheet. So I'm going to get rid of this other stuff for the income statement. And we'll just start working with this thing here. So it's a balance sheet. So I'm going to use a formula here. I'm just going to drag this closing balance over here. And I'm just going to put it right there. And I'm going to start hooking up my formula. Now this one doesn't use a GL link. This one is going to use the category code. So I'm going to tell it B6 for that. Hold on, I think it's wrong. Okay. It's B7, that's the problem. I didn't line it up. Yeah, you got to line up the data or it doesn't pull. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and format that guy, and then I'm just going to copy that down to these other two categories, and then we're going to fix these format-wise. So liabilities, just like the revenue we've seen, proper display is to flip the sign so that it displays it the way you want. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to add some spaces in here. And we need, we're going to go total assets here. And you can use any other formulas in Excel that you like as well. So you don't have to use just the Sage formulas. We'll put in the total liabilities. And that one's pretty straightforward as well. And we need the, we got retained earnings here. We need the current year retained earnings. Oops, they didn't hire me for my typing. Okay, there's that. And let's see, what are we going to do for that? We're going to need a formula. It's a balance sheet, so it needs to be a closing balance formula. And we're going to come into here and we're going to tell it what are the accounts that would accumulate the current year retained earnings. And that's basically your income statement accounts before you've closed it out for the year. So we're going to give it our income statement range, which is everything through revenue all the way through the end of the chart of accounts. There's that number. We need to format that one as well. And we'll give it a comma here. All right, starting to look a little bit more like a balance sheet. We need a total liabilities and equity. And let's see here, that's going to be the sum of the total liabilities. Actually, we need to put a total equity under here too. And we'll auto sum that. All right, let's see if we can finish this formula here. Okay, and we'll put an underline under this guy. And then we're going to put the polish on this thing. So for column B, we're just going to hide that. We don't need it. This one I'm going to write just, actually, we'll just move that over to there. All right, we might need to expand that out a little bit just to see it. And then we're almost there. We're going to get rid of this. That doesn't help us any. And we'll do an insert. Get our company logo in here. And then we'll do, we need a title here. And as you can see, we've got ourselves a balance sheet that actually balances in pretty short order, not even using GL codes. So, I'd still probably pretty it up a little bit, but I think you get the idea. Okay, another report to show you. Let's close that one. We don't need to save that report. All right, I'm going to show you another report that highlights a little bit of the strength of cell referencing at an even further level. So let's see here. I think I have it in this report here. Let's run this out, and we'll show you one of the reports I have in here that deals with cell referencing at a little bit more of an extreme level. Okay, the report for today's class is over here. So this is just a rolling income statement. So it goes from whatever the current period is back 12 periods. All these use the same cell referencing that we've already been showing you. So I'm just going to fill this in real quick so you can see that, and then we'll talk about the additional cell referencing that you can do. So if you've used the cell referencing, I like to show that. It just shows you how well this thing fills itself out. So you can make every one of those a manual formula, or if you use the cell referencing properly, you build one column and it's good for the rest of them. So what's different about this report than the other ones I've kind of showed you with regards to cell referencing is if I highlight one of these years up here across the top, these formulas down below actually uses the headers. So it looks at that year and period, and that's how it knows what to return for that particular column. However, the columns are also cell referenced. So if you look at the formula up there under the M4 cell, which is currently displaying the number 2019, basically it's a formula that evaluates what is in cells B3 and B4 to determine what value that particular column should return for its year and period. So here's the power that can add for you. If I were to just change this back to, I don't know, 2019, you can see real quick there, it updated all the columns to go from 2019 period 5 back 12 periods. And of course, we don't have any data that goes back to 2018, so that's why that's all zeros over there. But that just shows you that you can use cell referencing not only to get the actual numbers in Sage, but you can also use it to potentially derive other data, such as the column headers in this example. Okay. Okay. Now there is a missing accounts feature here. I don't find this that big of a deal. Let's see, where did that go? This is under tools. Yeah, missing accounts. So what this is, if you're building a report, you can click this button and it'll tell you what accounts are not in your report. So if you're building a balance sheet report and you run it, you should see, in theory, only income statement accounts, that kind of thing. That's kind of what it does. All right, so that's it for that one. All right, now we're actually going to build a report from scratch, so you can kind of see how that works. Although technically some of that other stuff we did was from scratch. We're going to build a non-financial report from scratch. So and we're going to try to make a dashboard out of it. So this will kind of give you a little bit of an insight to how some of that dashboard report that we looked at earlier was made. Okay, so to do that, we're going to just going to go up here to Bob's reports, and Bob's our designer for today. I'm Bob. I'm just going to add a report, and I'm going to tell it that we're going to make a standard report. And I'm just going to call this, I'm just going to call it top 5. All right, now we'll expand this out. So when we started our Lunch and Learn today, we took a quick peek at this thing called the connector. So these are simply a listing of the connections in the connector. So here what we're doing is we're looking for a connection, and if we have the connector license, we could actually create a connection specifically for a given use. In this case, we're just looking through what's already here, and we're looking at this description to see if maybe this has the data that we might be after. So as you can see, they all have different descriptions. This is the one I'm going to use, so I'm going to pick that and say OK. Once you do that, you get a list of the fields, or otherwise known as expressions in Sage Intelligence, that particular container has available to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through here and pick and choose what we want for our report. So I'm going to pick the division here. Whoops. And bear with me while I click off some of these fields. Item code, function, item type. shipped, how many we sold, salesperson name, unit cost, unit of measure, and last but not least, our unit price. Okay, so I could pick them all, or I can pick and choose. I only wanted certain fields. So there's our top 5 report, and we can see now it's got a name and a report ID. What we're going to do now is look in here and see here's the columns we picked. I didn't put any filters on anything. Actually, we actually do need to put some filters in here. Hold on, or it won't work. So the columns, here they are. Let's put in our parameters first here. So what we're going to do here, we're going to hit the add button, and we're going to tell it the start date. So these are all predefined. So if I come down here to the start date, I'm going to tell it that you are equal to the parameter date, meaning I'm going to give it a date, and then I'm going to also give it an end date. So this is going to help me put in my my date range for this report. Pick that same variable, say OK, and then I'm going to come over here to my filters tab, and we're going to put a few filters in here. And first thing we're going to do is tell it that we don't want to see invoices that are deleted. So some of you who've done a lot of invoicing might know that the Sage records like a regular invoice is like a -in in it. It records a deleted invoice as an XD. So we're going to tell it the invoice type is not equal to, and then we're going to go ahead and click the little ellipsis here, and it's going to give us a list of values that are in the database. XD is the one I don't want. So there's my first filter. And I'm going to add 2 more. And there's invoice date is greater than or equal to, and I'm going to put in, whoops, it's case sensitive. And we'll put 1 more for the end date. Is this one will be less than or equal to. Okay, I think that's all I needed to do. So we're going to run the report out. And if we didn't miss a step, it'll produce a raw data tab for us. So let's see here, February 2017, we just need to have the data that goes through 2020. So there we are. That should get us some data. And I don't know if this even goes back that far. So I'm actually going to put this in 2020 just to make sure we don't get an error. Okay, that should be fine. All right, so report's running out. Okay, and there it is. So it's almost there. Okay, there it is. All right, so I'm going to come back here, and we told it on the Properties tab, one of the things that we told it that we didn't talk about yet is that we told it to put the parameters on the second sheet. Okay, so the parameters was the date range that we put in. So if we come over here, the raw data is on sheet 1. This isn't very useful yet. Sheet 2 shows us the parameters that this data is showing. Okay, so that's why it's showing it there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to sheet 3, which doesn't have anything on it yet, and we're just going to start. I'm just going to type one of these out. I'm just going to call it my top 5 customers, and I'll blow that up a little bit so we can see it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to come back to my pivot table, or my pivot table, my data table here, and we're going to go to the insert, and we're going to insert a pivot table. So the non-financial reports, meaning things on all the other modules, they're they're primarily pivot table type of reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if I've got my entire range, because I want my report to be able to use all this data, and it does. It has the right range. And then I'm going to put this in this existing worksheet. I'm going to put it in an existing worksheet in this workbook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to feed it that cell right underneath my header, top 5 customers. I'm going to say, OK. Now it's got my pivot table here ready to go. And what it wants to know is, what am I going to put in that pivot table? So let's see here. What do I want to put in there? All right, I want the customer in here because it's going to be my top 5 customers. So I'm going to put the customer name in my row. In some of the values, I want to know basically who I sold the most to. So I'm going to put the extension amount. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and format this now because it's dollars. We'll give it the commas. And then I'm going to do a filter here too. So let's say I wanted a salesperson. I'm going to drag salesperson down here to my filters. And so far, so good. So now I've got some data. We're not done yet, though. I'm going to come in here, and it's a top 5 report, not whatever this list is showing. So I'm going to come down here to my value filters, and there's the top 10. I'm just going to change that to 5 because 5 is what I want. And there's my top 5 customers now. The salesperson filter here, what that did for me is it gives me the ability to filter that data based on salesperson. So if I want to just see Harvey, I can see Harvey's activity. So go all. This is standard pivot table stuff right here. All right, now what I'm going to do is, let's see, what am I going to do now? We're going to insert a chart. So let's see here. Analyze, pivot chart. So I've got to be in here. And I like the pie chart. So I'm going to just pick a pie chart here, and I'm going to pick this 3D one, and I'm just going to say OK. And there it is. So there's my graph. So I can make that bigger. If I want to make this say top 5 customers, because that's what it is. You know, you're in Excel now, so you're just doing whatever you want to do in Excel. So there's that. And, you know, I can add data labels to this. I can do whatever it is I want to do. If I want the data labels, there they are. You know, whatever you want to dream up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this whole thing, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it over here. And then I'm going to modify this. And this, I love to do this because it shows how flexible this really is. And I'm going to change this from being my top 5 customers to being my top 5 items. So customer name, you're gone. I'm going to put the item code in here. And we need to get rid of the customer. Now I've got my items in here. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to take the filter. We're going to take the salesperson out. And I want item type in my filter in this case. And I'm going to do something similar to get my top 5. I'm going to come in here and make the top 10 the top 5. And then up here, I don't want to see these non-regular inventory items. So, you know, the people who have inventory have, you know, regular inventory items. And you may also have miscellaneous items that live in the common information module. Those are not real inventory items that we track. So that's why I put the filter for that. And I'm going to tell it that I only want the regular items. I want to know the top 5 regular items that I sold. Okay, so there's that. And then again here too, I could also do a pivot chart. So I'll just do a pivot chart here. I'll make this one a column. And if I move that around, there it is. There's my top 5 items. Now I'm just going to do a couple little things for cosmetic. If I could continue to build my dashboard if I wanted to. I could even just have it be the graphs without the data, as long as I have the data supporting it. So we're going to do an insert a picture. You guessed it. There's my company dashboard logo. I could call this my top 5 dashboard. I might want to, you know, merge and center this over these columns. you know, put this over here, start highlighting, you know, do some cosmetic formatting. You get the idea. It's all pretty straightforward at this point. So if I don't want to see the grid lines, I can start taking those things out. I can color any of this stuff. And you can see that we have a good beginning of a dashboard report for top 5 items and top 5 customers. And I think that's enough of that. All right, let's see what else we're going to do here. Oh, hey, we need to send this report to senior management. Let's say we want to, let's just get rid of this column A. It's not doing anything for us. Let's say that we didn't have the report viewer license, and we needed to be able to distribute this report to senior management for their perusal. And so what we're going to do is talk about the report distribution features now. All right. So under the BI Tools tab, which you get when you have Sage Intelligence installed, we have various different things in here. We have some things about distribution instructions. So I'm just going to click the settings button here and show you this briefly. This is just where you can send it if you're going to be doing distribution via email or SMTP. Here is where we manage the instructions or define what they are. So here I have 2 sets. Here's my senior manager's one. So we're going to edit this one so we can see it. And basically we've got 3 tabs for the 3 types of distribution we can do. So here's the email tab. This one says it's going to me. It's got a title for the report. Dear manager, attached, please find the top 5 report. I've told it I want to actually give this to them in Excel, and I'm converting the data to static values. So they're not going to get the formulas. If I've included formulas in here, they're just going to get the data. All right. If I do a file publish, I can tell it where to drop the report on my network. If you're in your real world, this would probably be on a server someplace with, you know, place where everyone can get to it, that needs to get to it. And again, I can tell it the format that I want to do that. And notice you can send PDFs, Excel, HTML, etc. If you want to do the FTP, this is where you define that. I'm not doing FTP for today. So there's that. So that's where you define your instructions. So you can attach a set of instructions to 1 or more reports. So I'm going to select instructions for this report, and currently it doesn't have any. So if I want to do the senior managers, I can highlight that set of instructions, move that over, and then I can tell it which of the tabs do they actually get. So let's say I only wanted them to have sheet 3 with the finished product, and so there it is. And I'm just going to say OK. Then what I can do when I'm ready to actually send this out, I'll just tell it to send now, and it's going to go ahead and do whatever those instructions said to do. And looks like it's done. So what we'll do is we'll go take a look and see if it dropped that file where it said it would. And let's see here. Here is the, if I do by date modified, here's the top 5 report from today at 12:34. So we're going to go ahead and open that guy up. And sure enough, it looks just like the original, only it's data only. All right, so that's your distribution piece. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm not going to save it. All right, so that's a little bit on report distribution. I will also mention that Sage Intelligence can also do multi-company reporting. I didn't show you anything for multi-company reporting today, but that's another thing that it does fairly well. If any of you have multiple companies that you want to be able to do, you all know that you can't do that out of stock Sage. So that's another reason why some people like this particular tool. All right, that is pretty much it for my Lunch and Learn. I know I went a few minutes over, but that's the end of my Lunch and Learn. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm going to open up the lines for questions. All lines are open. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I'm almost done.
Any questions? I know that Laura from Post was on. She did have questions about registering her free user. I told her we can submit that to support. Well, everyone, I will thank you for your time today. Bruce, thank you very much for that informative. We're getting a question in the chat, I believe. Oh, we're getting a thanks. A thanks, Bruce, from Kirk.
Oh, great.
So thank you for that informative demo. We are also going to be working on some more in-depth Sage Intelligence classes showing how to do some specific reports, not just an overview. I know that Bruce has that calendar to work on. So again, look for our emails coming out at the end or beginning of each month of all of our upcoming classes. We do have a lot of new ones in the loop for 2017. We thank you for your time, and everyone have a great day. Thanks. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.